It's an interesting and really exciting time for local food. The market for local food has been growing steadily for several years, and the COVID pandemic has really put a focus on the fragility of long-term supply chains and has really helped people value and see local food as something really special and really valuable. Part of that market has been in bakery, particularly with small artisan bakeries. And those bakeries have found a particular market for bread made from ancient cereals and heritage varieties of wheat. Those varieties are not generally widely known, so there's need for some fairly basic agronomic information about how those varieties perform under Welsh conditions. And through the European Innovation Partnership Programme, we set up some trials on of farms down in Pembrokeshire near St David's. One of who the participating farmers here is Gerald. So, Gerald, will you tell us a little bit about the farm and why you're interested in looking at this project?
Yeah, well, we're here at Kyrie's farm. It's a family farm. We run a mixed farm of a suckler herd of Welsh Blacks, plus we grow cereals, and as well we've established a CSA, a community supported agriculture on the farm, where we grow organic vegetables for the community. My involvement, how I got involved in these trials, because I have a big belief in ancient varieties and really to test them and to compare them with modern varieties, because my vision is to really benefit from them, to market them locally to local bakers, to feed locally, and as well to prove the health of the aspects of health from these grains, because I believe strongly in these grains compared to modern grains, which have been changed over years to justify harvesting easily instead of concentrating on the actual benefits of the health of the grains.
So we've spoken a little bit about the market and the demand from the market side. Gerald, you've touched on some of the benefits, but Dominic, do you want to tell us a little bit about what the importance and what the relevance of these varieties and these species are to sustainable and organic farming?
Sure, absolutely. Well, they represent a fantastic opportunity to introduce additional agro-biodiversity into the fields, to diversify cropping systems. We know modern breeding it hasn't addressed low input and organic farming. So looking at varieties that might be better suited to marginal production and lower input farming, is crucial. Also, with climate change, we're looking for different crops to be more resilient and tolerant of the extreme conditions that we experience and we're experiencing more frequently. On top of that, there's additional value in terms of their traits, their agronomic traits. So they can be very vigorous and weed suppressive. That's really important for organic farming. And they have additional benefits and values in terms of their nutritional content as well, particularly in terms of the antioxidants. So yeah, in terms of looking at these underutilized species, thinking about reintroducing them, almost seeing farmers' fields as living gene banks, growing and cultivating and preserving this genetic diversity is, it's of huge value, I think, for organic and low-input agriculture.
Okay, well, let's go and take a look at the plots.
What really impressed me about ancient seeds was that I was invited to go to a demonstration in Brussels where farmers and growers were demonstrating against their rights to seeds because Monsanto was trying to change legislation and take control of the seeds. At that time, I was given 10 kilos of Emmer wheat from a German farmer, and that I brought back and grew it in between the vegetables in our field. And I was so impressed with the height of it, the straw of it and the quality of it, that it really sent a message to me that this is what we need back in farming, because we need the straw apart from the seed. And this is one of the things what made me want to be part of this trial.
Good, so Dominic, tell us what we've got here.
Yeah, sure. So this is one of the spring trials. We've got this replicated across 3 farms in the area. So here we've got monocrops of the different wheat varieties that we're looking at, wheat species I should say. So on the end there we've got Emma, Triticum dicoccum. We've got an old Swedish heritage variety of bread wheat called Atli. We've also got an English landrace spring wheat April bearded. And finally, we've got a control variety, that's a modern line Malika. So next, we move on to the intercropping trials that the farmers were interested in having a look at, whether they could grow beans alongside the wheats, whether they could increase their yield and the kind of land use efficiency by growing those 2 crops together. And it's a good opportunity to try to improve yields within organic farming, picking crops that are complementary with each other. Wheat and beans, Vicia faba and Triticum aestivum, they're classic combination that work very well together. So it's the same for wheat cultivars, along with a reduced seed rate of spring beans. They're Maris bead. Again, a heritage bean variety. We've also included a monocrop of the bean to compare, so we can calculate land equivalence ratios.
Previously, we were on Kairos looking at the spring sown cereals. We've now moved to a different site. We're on the bug farm, and these are the trials of the autumn sown varieties. So we're in a field here of a population of all sorts of different wheat varieties, and the idea of growing populations is that as these grow from season to season, the varieties that are best adapted will become most prevalent. So what we're talking about is a population that's adapting and evolving to specific conditions we've got here. So this particular crop is going to be used for milling in a peasant bakery 3 or 4 miles from here, and it fits in with what I was saying earlier about that demand for local food and making a direct link between what's in the field and the loaf that ends up on the plate. So Dominic, just tell us a bit about what we've got here.
Okay, yeah, so as Tony's mentioned, we're stood in the field of the Tortha Tir population, so you might consider that something of a modern landrace. In the trial, so Tortha Tir is in the trial and will be part of the baking tests. We've also got a traditional Welsh landrace, Hen Gymro, Old Welshman. So farmers have taken the lines out of various gene banks and bulked it up together, and now we're including that in the trial, and that'll form part of the baking tests. So
what we're really hoping that we can show in this project is the value of having a diversity of grains in terms of agrobiodiversity, but also varieties that are really suited to low input and organic systems, but also linking that to a growing market for quality artisan bread made from local, resilient, sustainable grains.